Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. It's Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here. We're talking about our winter storm, and as always, with every winter storm, there's always some uncertainty or difficulty. If these things were easy, I'd still have hair. I mean, it is a crazy setup, again, especially closer to Charlotte. But let's start first with where we are for winter weather alerts. We've got winter storm warnings up for all of the mountains, foothills, and parts of the northwest Piedmont. That does include Caldwell, Burke, and Alexander counties. Still got winter storm watches for Catawba and Iredell County, and additional counties could be added. We'll likely see either winter storm warning upgrades or winter weather advisories probably in this region. Not sure if they'll make it all the way to Charlotte, but because Charlotte's such a long county, and I'll talk more about this, the northern part of the county likely going to have winter weather advisory criteria. Bottom part of the county, not so much. So Huntersville to Pineville could be a big difference in what we see. Let's go right to the radar together. Now, this is a model interpretation of what's happening. I'm going to turn on the actual radar above it, and you can see the model's a little bit ahead. So I always like to look at that, like how is the model performing to reality? And it kind of gives you an idea on how things unfold. So we'll go through time. Notice up here in the corner, here's the time frame for all of this. I'm going to stop this 6 p.m. tonight. Probably not going to see rain. Remember, the real radar was probably a couple hours behind this. So this first batch of moisture is probably not going to make it to the ground until probably after 8 or 9. So I'm thinking probably 8, 9 o'clock we'll see some moisture. Notice mostly rain, but in the mountains we've got snow. And again, this event is going to be very elevation dependent. And I'm not just talking mountain elevation. I'm talking a couple hundred feet more above Charlotte or above Mooresville. So, Charlotte's at like 700, 800 feet, depending where you are in town. If you get closer to 1,000 feet of elevation, you're going to be closer. So those couple hundred feet make a big difference. So areas even like Crowder's Mountain or South Mountain State Park or areas that are higher up are probably going to see snow, and down towards the bottom we won't. Could be one of those situations where it's snowing at the top of the Bank of America building and it's rain down at street level. That's the kind of setup we're in, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But we go through the overnight hours, and notice at times the guidance tries to hit a quick burst of snow. This is incredibly difficult because the model is basically fluctuating on 1/10 of a degree at certain elevations of the atmosphere. Could we see snow mix in initially? I certainly think so, or even sleet. But it's probably going to be a cold rain unless it's really heavy. The heavy precipitation drags the cold air down. So even during the overnight hours, there could be snow briefly mixing in. And then you see the rain snow line kind of shifts north. And then during the morning hours, I think for the most part, the snow is going to be confined to the northwest Piedmont, foothills, and mountains. But at the very tail end, the best chances for snow in Charlotte are going to be in the late afternoon because there's a time frame where the cold air is coming in from the northwest and the moisture is moving out. But there's a very narrow corridor where the cold air and moisture kind of overlap each other. It's kind of tough. It's like cold air is chasing the moisture, but there is an overlap there that we could see a quick burst of snow. And for that reason, I've kind of changed the forecast for snow a little bit further south, and I think we legit have a chance for snow in the Charlotte area. So let me go to our futurecast. This one's a little bit easier to see. I'm going to back it up here. We'll go through time because I put the temperatures on here. Here's the temperatures through tonight. Notice 11 o'clock to midnight is more of when we have it on ours. And you can see that moisture coming in. Notice the temperature dropping. Look where the snow is at 5 a.m. just north of Charlotte. Doesn't mean there won't be some mixing in, but I have a tough time sticking. Then we go through time. And you can see how the fluctuations in temperatures are very subtle. But right up in here, the area just north of here, this is the area we've been targeting for a while. The only thing that's really changed is that I think we are going to see the rain snow line get pulled to the south at the very tail end, which could actually bring a brief mix to the Charlotte area. And we'll see this kind of at the tail end here into the afternoon. See how the little mix comes in 4 or 5 o'clock. And again, I know it shows some rain around there, but that could be a burst of heavy snow Friday evening. So Charlotte people, your burst of snow is going to happen Friday evening more than anything. The rest of the area probably could have it on and off throughout the day. And then it moves out fairly quickly as we go into the overnight hours. So here's my latest forecast map just to highlight the area. I have brought down the trace to 1 inch closer to the state line. Now, this is going to be one of those crazy scenarios, as I mentioned. Up here, northern part of the county, probably 1 inch, maybe an outside chance for 2 inches. Southern part of the county, trace to 0. So the gradient across just Charlotte Metro is going to be pretty substantial. Your friends up towards the lake, much higher chance of seeing snow on the grass. South Charlotte, probably better chance of it falling from the sky. 1 to 2, but not sticking. 1 to 2 as you get north of, Gastonia, Salisbury. Mooresville, Kannapolis maybe. And then South Mountain State Park, I actually highlighted. I think there could be a big heavy snow in there because of elevation. The Unifor region, 2 to 4 inches. Elevation dependent as well. Some of the higher amounts as you get west of Hickory up into Burke and Caldwell County, it ramps up to 4 to 6. So elevation is your friend. These areas, the cold air is locked in longer, and we certainly could see higher amounts. So for Charlotte, again, this is kind of my thinking. I'll move my head up here for a second. I think the 55% probability of a trace to an inch, that's our highest. There's still a 20% chance at 0, but I actually almost thought about making that 15% and adding it to here. There's a 20% chance this could go up to 1 to 2 with that burst, and really, really outside chances, 4% for 2 or 4, and a 1% chance it shoots up to 1. So the percentages are honing in on this trace to 1 inch, and on either side you've got 0 and 1 to 2. So that's kind of the range. I like to show those probabilities just to give people a legitimate chance. So for the mountains and the foothills, again, I'm going to give this a 5 on the snow meter because that's where I expect the biggest impacts. Now, I know schools are virtual, but if they were, they'd be delays or they would be switched to virtual instead of home, and things will probably shut down. We'll probably have some closures up there. This is a pretty legitimate snow. Now, for the Charlotte area, we've moved out of social media talk and we've got a legit snow chance. Not that it's going to have a huge impact on the roads or be a shut it down type of thing, but a legit chance. Some of us are going to have some snow on the deck, on the car top, on our rooftops, on some grassy surfaces. But for the most part, the roads are going to be just fine. And to that end, I'll show you the 2-inch probabilities. If you really want to get good snow, and 2 inches is kind of around here what we consider, the mountains are pretty much a sure bet. And then Interstate 40 is your next bet. 50% chances are higher. You could see in Charlotte, the northern part of the county, there's a 10, 20, maybe percent chance at the most. Middle of the county, 1%, and less than 1% south. That kind of gives you a rough estimate of that. And as far as travel, so this is impacts basically on your life on roads. The areas in orange, mountains around Asheville, probably the medium risk. So pretty good impact if you're traveling there early Friday or even early Saturday, some issues. North of Charlotte, the areas in yellow, certainly going to have travel issues. I think primarily Friday night. During the daylight hours, roads will probably just be wet to slushy. But at night, Friday night or early Friday morning, those are the time frames you're probably going to want to stay off the road. Around Charlotte, not really expecting much. I'd say limited just because we could see a refreeze of some of the moisture that falls on Friday. So real quickly, some weather geek stuff about why this is becoming difficult to forecast. I pulled up the short range guidance here, and occasionally people will show this to me or they have access to this, and they only look at these maps. I'll look at the snow over Charlotte or the totals. One thing I like to look at is the sounding. What does the atmospheric profile look like? The temperature from the ground up to the top of the atmosphere. So if you start looking at that kind of stuff, one of the things you notice across Charlotte, and of course it probably won't load here. Let me see if I can get the load right over Charlotte, is that this 0 degree line, and again, the red line's the temperature, the green's the dew point. You can see the lowest 7,000 feet around Charlotte. The temperature's about 34 degrees. It's really marginal. There's not a big freezing layer. That's a wet snow or cold rain. Literally the difference in a degree or two between that layer can make it snow or rain. Whereas you go up to the Charlotte or the Hickory area where it looks like it's solid snow, I look at the sounding there. Not only is the whole bottom layer below freezing, there's a really deep cold layer about a kilometer up, and at the ground it's 32. So the difference from Charlotte to Hickory is pretty substantial in the type of precipitation we'll see because of that layer of cold air. And this is why it makes it incredibly difficult to forecast these things, because you're talking about not just temperatures at the ground. When we show you this map here, that's the temperature at the surface. What's really dictating how much snow, or if we see snow or rain, are those temperatures at 5,000 feet, 7,000 feet, sometimes even a couple thousand feet. And fluctuations above our heads actually has a bigger say on what we see down at the ground, believe it or not. So again, that's kind of my thinking right now. I'll leave you with the snowfall map. That's as of 11 a.m. on the 7th. I will have my final call map tonight, and I will post it, and then we'll see what happens tomorrow. But really, for the Charlotte area, this is more of a fun event. I do think we could see snowfall. Some of us might get a light dusting, but overall, probably not a big impact on your life. Up in here, much bigger impact. Travel will be treacherous early Friday, maybe even briefly during the day, but I think really Friday night, once the sun goes down, everything freezes up, and that's where our issues are.